and welcome to an apple a day with Dr. Amanda. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, and pull up a chair, sit on down, grab some coffee, maybe perhaps some apples, and I hope you enjoy today's segment. So again, the purpose of this is to really help people use their voice, share their story, and tell their lessons learned. So like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube. And without further ado, I'm very excited. This week we're talking about leadership integrity, and that is an amazing area that I think is well needed as individuals and in our regions and states and government. So with that said, I am so delighted to have my guests and colleagues and friends, Chris and Jess Engler. And Chris and Jess Engler are co-leaders and co-founders of Mighty Oak Ministries and Cyber Grape Services. So welcome, Chris and Jess.
Hey.
Thanks for having us today.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to have a conversation with both of you on a very topic that we don't always quite talk about enough. And I'm not sure if you agree, but I think it's important. So I want to just talk, I know that you have leadership in different capacities and you've done this over the years. What do you find are characteristics of an effective leader?
You know, I would say that the number one characteristic for a leader, well, let's not go with number one. Let's go with several in the top of my chart, right? One is a leader to me, and me being a leader is I would never ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So that is like personal integrity. So that's important. Second one is I think leaders should be transparent, at least as transparent as they can be. I think transparency. So integrity and transparency just in their lives. Like Jess and I, our goal has always been to be like glass. See through us. What you get here is also what you're going to get everywhere else.
I would say, like, just ditto off of Chris, is that integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching. To me, the best characteristic is somebody who is truly trying to do the right thing, no matter what their audience consists of.
Yeah. And of course, a leader, Jess and I had to learn a couple years ago that if you feel like you're a leader and no one's following, you're not leading anyone. So there's different types of leaders and leadership styles. One is that you're the one taking the charge in the front, right? Charge. And then there's another one that's saying, hey, you know what? You guys charge, and I'm going to take the rear guard and make sure that, you're covered from the back. Mm-hmm. So the idea to me is know which style to use in the appropriate situation.
I'm good.
That's good. All right. So just, I like how you both agree that leadership integrity is really having that vulnerability of, you being able to be honest, and that, when you bring yourself into a room, you see what you get, right? Having that glass where like you can see and you're as vulnerable and you can be as honest as possible about what's going on. And I also like that you talked about those different types of leadership integrities, where people may be taking that lead, or sometimes you do take that rear back of the charge, making sure that you're checking in, right? Is everything good, and knowing when to do that. So I really do think those are two good things to have as leadership. Thank you. And then when it comes to leaders, I know you've talked about what makes an effective leader, but what are characteristics that really are specific for leadership integrity? Are there anything else that you would add to that?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would say the number one thing is honesty. To admit a failure or a mistake, quick to say I'm sorry. None of us are perfect. Even the greatest of leaders have made mistakes. And I really appreciate when the leaders in my life have been quick to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. I was in the wrong here. And teachability. So like, because, not one of us knows everything. So watching leaders be teachable, to me, is huge.
Yeah. I was actually going to say the same thing with the same exact words.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, there you go.
That's amazing.
Let me take it one step further. So I do think being able as a leader to say, I've made a mistake and I was wrong, and not only was I wrong, I know that it actually probably hurt some of you. And that, just ask for forgiveness. Like, will you forgive me? And, you'll be surprised at how forgiving people really are. So, just try to cast that joint vision. So it's not just the leader's vision of like where we're going, although the leader almost always is the one to catch that vision first. The idea is just be able to catch that mutual vision that you can all go after. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you're still on the same page. So I like that you were talking, and again, for the audience, for looking at integrity. Jess, you talked about honesty and you both talked about really being able to be honest, right? And talking about here are some of the mistakes we're making and being able to be teachable, because at the end of the day, we're constantly learning. Even if you are in a leadership role, right, it's important to get feedback and also be able to admit, hey, these are some things that happen. That ownership, that really also goes with what you originally said about leadership, which is talking about, okay, we're like glass, you can see through that. We're being as transparent as possible and keeping that honesty with those that are working with us. So I really appreciate that. Good. And then looking at leadership integrity, and obviously there have probably been many people in your life that have impacted your walk. And again, we can talk about, in this question, it could be a couple, like what are some examples of leadership integrity that you have learned from in a good way? Like who has impacted your walk as a leader in the area of integrity?
I'll give an example. So difficult situations is where that's what really shows like a leader's muster. And sometimes you have something that's called sunk costs. And I've seen leaders spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes even I've been on $1 million projects where a leader has to say, what we're doing isn't working. And instead of continuing to plow forward on something that they know is already dead, they say, it's a sunk cost. I'm gonna let that go. Like, we're gonna bury that and we're gonna let something grow out of it. We're gonna take a different direction and this is okay. And we're gonna move forward and we're gonna do that. So I've seen that on several times during my career. And as a leader, admitting things are a sunk cost, and being able to just let go and move forward in a different direction it costs a lot for a leader to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I would say for me, I've seen leaders take the fall for the team, being the one that takes the brunt of it and just quietly with grace, bears the cost of a failure, even if their hands weren't even in it. To me, that speaks a lot for that silent integrity we talked about earlier. It's just that it's never about them, it's about the team.
Yeah, and there's another thing that I think is important too. And difficult situations, one of the most difficult things for a leader is leadership transition. There's something that's really important to me, like we're Mighty Oak Ministries, right? So something that's important to me is my walk with Christ. There was a point in time in Christ's in his mission where someone challenged, right? Or they were like basically between him and John the Baptist, right? And John said, I have to decrease so he can increase. As a leader, knowing the time that you have to decrease and let someone else increase that's where leadership really hits the road. And it's difficult. It's difficult for someone that has led for such a long time to say, my time or my season here in this role is coming down. And I see someone moving up, and be able to celebrate that other person. So we've seen that done well, and we've seen it not done well. So, I'm always as a leader, I'm always planning my decrease.
Good. Anything else, Jess? Or-
No, it's okay. I'm good.
Okay. Well, so again, I just to recap, because again, for the audience, just listening to this, if you're listening in, these are some really important components of, looking at examples of leadership. And so you started with that sunk cost, which is, if things aren't going so well, right, they're kind of plummeting, being able to pivot, right, and go and say, this isn't working, we're going in a different direction, being able to explain that probably with transparency and helping the team understand that, so that you're building that relationship. And I also think, when you're talking about just the difference in when you have situations where you have to switch, right? You are in the leadership role, but you're realizing, right, and and being healthy enough to say, okay, there's other people that I need to empower, right? I need to equip them, and they're going a little bit further than I did, and I'm not going to be upset about it, right? I'm going to be that leader who says, yes, I've done my role. These people need to get what they need and still fulfill a role, and being able to learn that. And I think that can be hard for people, right? Learning that they still have value. But I think that goes back, I don't know if you agree, but in integrity, if you know who you are and you know that you have value no matter what roles you're in, and you're equipping people, I think that might be a mindset thing. I'm not sure if you've seen that, where there's a mindset shift with integrity, where you want, right, what's best for your team. And I don't know if you want to speak on that, because that kind of came up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so I do have something to add. We've taught youth for quite a few many years, and it is really what my favorite age to teach. But one thing I've said to our youth time and time again is the best thing I can do as your teacher is watch you go farther than me. Like, to see you touch places that I haven't even thought of. And that should be in every avenue we lead, to see those that we raised up surpass us. That's the goal. So.
No, that's good. And I just, I'm just curious, as we're having conversation, I feel like that always isn't emphasized. A lot of times, depending where you are, and again, I'm speaking generally, not everywhere, but depending where you go, it's kind of we kind of gotten rid of some of those top down models, but you still have that where, again, there are decisions you make, but you want people to run further, and sometimes it's still, that model isn't there yet, right? There's still a hold on things where, again, you have effective leaders, but because you're not empowering them, they don't always have that voice, or they're not able to run ahead. But I think if you're telling that to people right away, right, I hope that you continue, right, I hope that you surpass even what we're doing. We might do something that goes, I think that's a different message, right? It helps empower people to run and say, okay, I have the permission to be me and to run as fast as I need to, and that you're okay with that.
It takes away the box, that box mentality of, you have to fit in my box. We've been behind leadership and been, where my box may seem too big for somebody or may seem too small. So I think when you come out of the gate with that, it takes that away, and now they can just be them, and they can lead how they're called to lead, and they can go forth to where they're called to go without feeling like they have to fill your space.
That. Yeah. So again, not filling space, so they're being who they're called to be out of the box. I like that a lot. So we're talking about the theme of, leadership integrity, and really this fits nicely in our next part of this is, where have you learned lessons about leadership integrity that has shaped your personal values as a leader?
Yeah. I would say hang out with people that make you grow. You become who you hang out with. Mm-hmm. So there's the saying where it's lonely at the top, right? As you excel as a leader, people fall away, and it becomes more and more and more of just you. To develop, you really need to find your crowd, or people that have been in similar situations, that can speak into your life in a way where you can see that they have success in an area you're failing. Or, I'll say it another way. Only take advice from people that you've seen that they have success in the area they're giving advice in. But you have to put yourself around those people that can speak into your life and help you grow. You become who you hang out with. So be careful with who you choose.
And for me, it's teachability. you know, and some of that has been really great people that have come alongside me as moms and dads and just really helped raise me and, you know, correct me. But that's like a fraction compared to not so great leaders that have really could have easily caused a lot of woundedness. But we have a choice, right? We have a choice when we go through some bad stuff. Are we going to let this keep us broken and keep us bitter? Or are we going to learn? Are we going to learn what kind of leader we don't want to be? Are we going to learn, like, or even parent, you know, are we going to learn what kind of parent we don't want to be? And instead of taking that as a tool of, you know, I can do better. I can, you know, never treat somebody this way or whatever, be the leader you need, you know, you needed at the time, be that leader. And so I feel like for me, that has been something I've had to learn the hard way, you know, and I've had to kind of walk down that road of saying, okay, is this gonna keep me stuck? Is this gonna have me be like almost like crippled in my walk, or am I gonna let even what the enemy meant to kind of hurt me bring something better out in me? And it's a constant choice. But I would say for me, that has been, you know, that was hard because I tend to have a little bit of a big mouth. You know, I can, you know, yeah. So I had to learn when to be quiet and just let things be handled in the spirit.
Thank you. So I like, you know, again, for audience, if they're listening to this, you know, and all of us, as we're growing, and again, right, we may have been in leadership where people are still growing, right? Perhaps down the road, they learn the lessons, you know, or we learn the lessons, and because we're always evolving, we hope, right? We're always hoping to be something new or being able to be in a different place. But I like how you talk, Chris, about, you know, really making sure that you hang around people that give you advice or that they're doing those steps. So you have, you know, that solid foundation. You have people that are trustworthy that you've seen, you know, have walked, said who they are, and show when you're in looking at integrity, you know, you really want to be that leader that you wanted before, right? Someone who walked that integrity that you were like, wow, what a great role model, and you still to be in this, you know, role or being with these people. Are two helpful things that really help with looking at integrity. That's good. And then in terms of, again, I know you talked about some integrity situations, but is there any one situation that stands out to you that really shaped your leadership? Perhaps you saw some leaders who had integrity during a really difficult situation.
For me, we saw, okay, years ago, you know, we're both ordained through Global Awakening. And I've seen Randy Clark preach, I don't even know how many times. I read his books, you know, we had to become ordained through there. But he gave a message the one time, and actually has now become a short book called the, what was it? The Thrill and Victory and the Agony and Defeat. And he's just preached from such a broken place that I have never, ever seen him preach from. I've never, ever, like, it was like you were sitting down having coffee with Randy, and there was probably about 100 of us in the room, maybe 150, and he went over an hour. Like, he just kept going, and it was just like this moment in time where he talked about all the times where people weren't healed versus all the times, like, we talk about when people are healed. He's like, well, we don't talk about those moments of defeat. And it was such a raw moment that it really impacted me, which is why it's like, even when things don't always go well or as we had hoped, there's something still in there to take from there. And I think that was a big moment for me personally. And I actually, when it came out as a little book, like maybe 2 years ago, I bought it and I read it again because it's something I just think I need to always be reminded of. Because, like, we can be on the highs of highs, but the lows come, and we have to remember that there's still something in the valley. God still has something he's doing there. And we'll be in the valley a long time waiting to figure out what that is. But if we can get ourselves quick to recognize, then we can get back on that mountaintop. So
yeah. And for me, when I was younger, well, I was in the military, right? I got out of the military, and then I started working for a Fortune 500 company where I was with them for about 20 years. When I first started that company, there was a giant downsizing. They called it, the company called it Project Focus. And I remember the leader at the time of our business unit stood up and was really close to me, like physically really close to me. And he said, you know, anybody that wants a job at the end of this will still have a job. Like, I guarantee it. And what that did for me was it kept me focused. It said, you know what, like I want a job, right? I need a job for my family, and I'm trusting that leader to make sure that I'm going to have a job at the end of this. And it just helped me. And what you saw was people that didn't have the vision, people that didn't have the vision, and this is okay, by the way. People were not in alignment, and people just started to walk away. Like people just left the job. People, got other jobs, like it just started happening naturally. And the people that wanted to stay did. At the end of that, not one single person was actually let go, because the people that weren't on board naturally had the attrition and had the time to adjust. So anyway, to me, that was one of the, it was an epic leadership example for me. It just spoke so much to me and just who I wanted to be at that time, and that one example guided my principal for many years to this company that kept on going through multiple downsizings. It was like the company was always downsizing. But anyway, it always kept me going. And I just so much appreciate that example.
Great, thank you. So Jess, and again, for audience listening, I loved how you talked about Randy Clark, just like a vulnerable moment, and how when leaders are very vulnerable, right, about the highs and the lows, or really just talking about here's some hard things and like what do you hold on to, or here's some painful moments, right, we've gone through, and how to navigate that, which shows integrity. And then Chris, like you were talking about the company, where your boss was like, I'm keeping all the jobs for those of you who are going to continue, and I gave you purpose, or I gave you a sense of, okay, like I'm going to believe this person, and they're keeping their word, and they did, as you mentioned, like over time, and it helped this is who I want to be, like I want to keep my word and do that. And I think again, if you're in the audience, hopefully you've been through some good leadership experience, or maybe not, right? And you're navigating, but also knowing like the importance of what is integrity and what does that look like. So again, thanks for those examples. And then looking at this, do you believe a leader can develop integrity and grow?
The answer is yes. I mean, it has to be yes. If the answer is no to that, we're all doomed. What do you think, Jess? What do you think about
Definitely.
that?
I mean, because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, and I hope I'm not the same person 10 years from now. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. And if we let Christ work on us, we're becoming more Christ-like. And who is the ultimate example of integrity but Christ? So like, to me, every single person, even the most, far off person, whatever that could be, could absolutely be the most shining star of it, version of integrity. So absolutely.
Yeah, I always say that the transition for any person from where they are now to wherever they're going is one small good decision at a time.
One small step. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a follow-up to this that really kind of answers, have you seen a leader who perhaps didn't walk in integrity make a turnaround where they were able to overcome that? Like, that's a curiosity. So there is hope, but have you had that where there has been leadership, or perhaps that you're thinking of, even if it's not your own leaders or people you've seen in, leading a nation or, like regions or whatever, but like where they had a fall, but they're able to come back and they're able to build trust and integrity again? Like, has there been a lot of examples that you can think of?
Chris and I went through a really difficult season where we were jumping through every hoop. I think that we just kind of expected things to go one way, and they didn't. And when it didn't, I think there were things inside of both of us that needed to be dealt with. And it just stuff we had no clue. And I think there's a lot of breaking involved, but that's a good thing. So, we went through a season that was, it smushed us. Like I think of a spice grinder. It's like, and but it was because there, in order for us to go into the place of leadership that he has called us to now and is, we're walking into, we couldn't take that junk with us. So, I would say that, yeah, I'm an example of that, because there was a lot of stuff that just couldn't go. Like when we graduate, when we get promoted, in the kingdom or in the workplace, like there's things in the way you used to do things I had to work on, like my own selfish ambition, my own pride. There's never room for pride, things, fear of man, all that stuff had to go. And so, yeah, I think that, and I'm sure my next promotion, I'll have a whole other list of things that need to be dealt with
Yeah.
again, because we're always, oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
journey.
And now just on the flippity flip, I've seen a lot of leaders fall away and not recover.
Mm.
And I would say the pivotal piece about
Yet.
whether, not
Yes.
yet. The pivotal piece about recovering from any situation goes right to kind of what Jess is hinting at. It's on the heart.
Yeah.
So someone's heart needs to be pliable in a way where they can change, or
Yeah.
be willing to accept change and accept the hard things.
And that teachability, like it's allowing the breaking. And that's the bottom line. Like I thought people were breaking me, but it really wasn't. It was the Lord sifting. And so, yeah.
It all goes back to heart issues.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So again, the hard issues, I know, just both of you talking, the big change is what I'm really listening to you both saying, is that heart change, that when it doesn't happen yet, it's about our heart being pliable. And like you said, being molded, being sifted, and continuing to go. And some seasons it feels like it's never ending. But again, if we allow that, and kind of like going back to what you originally said, Chris, about like us decreasing, again, if you're in the faith, like as we decrease, right, we get filled with who we're really called to be, and really having that different mindset. And like you said, always growing, always being willing to keep healing and keep going deeper, so that we can be the best version of of ourselves, and really letting go of that pride and everything else, and constantly, just wanting to get better and teachable. So I think those are all important with this. And then in terms of integrity, are there any books or resources or anything that you would recommend that, again, I can put in the description for the audience, but things that really were pivotal in your walk as a leader in the area of integrity?
Yeah, we actually, we have an ordination program with our ministry. And so there's a couple books that we would say is mandatory reading. One of them is the 21 Tests of Leadership.
That's the one
by Larry Krieger. I can never say his last name. Kreider. He's he's the founder of Dove International. 21 Tests of Leadership will rock you like so bad. Like I try to read it every year. My goal is to read it once a year to remind myself. And it goes through like, the expectation test, the timing test, and really great book. Another one is The Tale of Three Kings. It is a poetic description of the story of Saul, David, and Absalom. And it is constantly self-reflective, because everybody thinks they're Davids, but it could be a Saul, it could be an Absalom, but it's always having you look within yourself. And I love that, because it's very easy to say your leader is a Saul, but it's always looking in the mirror. And that's what that book really calls you out to do. And we just read one recently that really rocked us. Yochebed Anointing. Fantastic book. I was actually told to read it as part of a women's conference I was working with.
Who wrote that?
Oh, I don't remember who wrote it, but I could message it to you. But it really is good. It's about carrying a seed, how to carry a seed, and it's birth the child of deliverance.
Wow.
And there was a third one we have for required reading. What is it? The Three Battlegrounds by Francis Frangipane. Fantastic book. It's about the battlefield of the mind, battlefield of the church, and battlefield for your community. And it talks about like different strongholds that keep places stuck. And that one really, really spoke to both of us.
Yeah.
It really just talks about how to get your head cleared up, and now you can focus on your church, your people, your family, the people in your circle. Okay, now how do you take your community?
There's another one that I wasn't even thinking about, but it came into my mind is you wouldn't even think about it as a leadership book, but the Screw Tape Letters. That's a good one. Is an amazing book. Yeah. Just thinking about how wars are waged.
Yeah, the manipulation. Yeah.
So
yeah.
again, that's an amazing one too.
Yeah. So like I'm a big reader. I'm always referencing a book, so I could probably list like 50 more. But
Besides the Bible,
of course,
read that
yes,
first.
Yes.
Step
of course.
one.
Of course. And you like the one about the highly effective people too.
The
Yeah.
7 Habits of Highly
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say number one for a leader, I would start with the Tale of Three. Well, I guess number two, Tale of Three Kings, and then the 21 Tests of Leadership. I mean, they should be paramount to anyone leader.
Yeah.
We won't ordain anybody unless they read them.
Well, that's good. It sounds amazing. I haven't heard the 21 trait one. So every time I'm doing this, I get all these resources. So a whole growing list. Yes.
You can put a list out there for everybody.
There's a lot of good books out there, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely list that for the audience. And then again, for one, we're coming to the end of our lovely chat on leadership integrity. Thinking about our audience, what's one final wisdom tip, maybe from each of you, a wisdom tip in the area of leadership integrity that you want to say to everybody?
Yeah. So, okay, so mine, I'm gonna go full circle to what I started with. As a leader, if you want to be a leader, don't ask anyone to do something you're not willing to do.
Okay. And a leader serves. That is what a leader does. A leader doesn't just stand on the pulpit or in the big office. A leader is there to serve. Doesn't matter if your team is 1, your team is 1,000. You're there to serve.
Good. So again, I like how it's service and you're only doing what you are doing as well, right? You're not having other people not do what you're doing. So those are great wisdom tips. So again, audience, you've had quite a bit from Chris and Jess and a plethora of resources. So Chris and Jess, as we're finishing out, is there any other information in terms of how to get a hold of you or some things you want them to know about you so that if they have questions?
You can reach out to us. Our ministry is very apostolic and we have a heart for missions, mightyoakministries.org.
No, it's not.
.com.
No, it's not.
Sorry. moministries.org. Sorry.
moministries.org.
I have all these websites going through my brain.
We got it. And if you want to, if you have if you ever need a website, you can buy domains, hosting, and actually web development through our company Cybergrapes, and that is cybergrapes.com.
Got that one right. So that's our tent making. That's how we provide to fuel the ministry to go out there and change the world for His glory.
Yeah.
Amazing. So again, audience, you heard that. I'll have all this listed with the books. There at Cybergrapes and MO Ministries.
MO Ministries.
We call it Mom.
It's
It's just called Mom.
I like it. Yeah. So again, thank you, Chris and Jess. It's amazing. So please like, share, subscribe. We will continue this week talking about leadership integrity. I hope you have a wonderful week. You're amazing. You're incredible. And be well. So thank you so much. Thanks again, Chris and Jess.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Bye.